Although the landscapes and the biodiversity above and below water are so abundant, most of the natural wonders of our world are under threat. Most of them are in third world countries, countries struggling to feed their peoples. The main reason why rainforests are deforested and rare animals mercilessly hunted. For those in need, this is barely enough with which to survive. Profits are pocketed by unscrupulous traders. Since 1972, UNESCO has been attempting to counter this. By awarding the title World Natural Heritage Site, it provides a seal of quality for primordial nature, a veritable magnet for high-quality individual tourism. Through tourism, a symbiosis of nature and commerce is created, and the population made aware that it is more than worthwhile to preserve nature. We are in the west of Costa Rica. Here, the region known as Guanacaste begins directly on the Pacific coast. It was declared a UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site in 1999 and consists of the Santa Rosa, Guanacaste, and Rincon de la Vieja national parks. The area, which covers some 100,000 hectares, stretches from the Pacific coast across the mountains inland, some of which are 2,000 meters tall, to the lowlands facing the Caribbean. Some 230,000 species of flora and fauna thrive in diverse habitats. The dry forest region, with its 60,000 hectares, is one of the last of its kind in Central America. Located on the Pacific coast are Cape Santa Helena and the nature reserve San Antonio. There is a natural beach, but sun worshippers are a rarity. Breathtaking. An offshore reef and mangrove foothills certainly provide the credentials for a Caribbean picture postcard. Here on the fine sandy beach of the bay, hermit crabs set about a cracked coconut. Decapods are abundant here. They owe their name to the Greek philosopher Diogenes, who, according to legend, lived in a wine cask. However, hermit crabs don't tend to live in wine barrels, but use empty mussels or snail shells to protect themselves from predators. Their abdomen is bare, and without the shells, they are defenseless when attacked. Because of the absence of humans, the small creatures can go about their business undisturbed. There are left-handed and right-handed hermit crabs, according to where the largest pincer is, which they also use to close their snail shells. When danger looms, they simply withdraw into the shell and forget the world outside. A first encounter with the primeval on the edge of a nearby forest. In the shadows, an iguana dozes on a tree. Normally, iguanas are not found so close to the sea. Only the marine iguana, an endemic species from the Galapagos Islands, lives as close to the water as this beach specimen. He feeds primarily on windfalls and fruit and is totally unimpressed by our camera and film team. The mangrove forest begins in Guanacaste, directly on the beach. Like a dense green wall, the mangroves form a protective shield against storms and waves. They act virtually as a natural dike and prevent land from being washed out to sea. Mangrove forests consist of trees, palms and bushes, which grow in tropical and subtropical intertidal zones around the equator. They belong to the world's most productive, biologically important ecological systems. In the process, they adapt to the most extreme environmental conditions and thrive in both high salinity and scorching heat. Human influences, as well as frequent storms, decimate the forests increasingly. On a global basis, the loss of mangroves is therefore higher than that of tropical forests inland or of coral reefs. According to a global ecology and biogeography study, there are under 140,000 square kilometers of mangroves left in the world. This is 12% less than previously assumed and corresponds roughly in size to England. Mangrove forests develop in brackish water, mostly in the estuaries of rivers. They thrive in water temperatures of more than 20 degrees. There are around 70 different plant families and trees in the mangrove forests, all of them well adapted to the inhospitable conditions of their habitat. The salty water to which the mangroves are exposed leads to a low water content of the silt surrounding the roots. Mangroves must therefore prevent themselves from absorbing salt from the water. This is achieved on the one hand in the roots, and on the other via salt glands in the leaves. Their unearthly breathing roots constitute yet another feature of mangroves. These enable oxygen to reach the cells of the plants, which is required for cell respiration. Mangrove forests are predominantly divided into zones. These define themselves according to the proximity of the sea. Several different types can occur here. The red mangrove colonizes the coastal region, while the black mangrove occupies the next zone situated inland. This can only be reached by high tides. Black mangroves can reach heights of up to 25 meters and boast the largest blossoms of all mangrove species. Biodiversity prevails on the edge of the brackish river. Large and small animals alike find a natural habitat here, far away from humans and civilization. The green iguana is a permanent resident of the mangrove swamp. Here, he hunts for small insects and robs the nests of birds. The forest is dense. The canopy of the mangroves allows only sparse light onto the surface of the river, painting a surreal picture of the river landscape. The biolisk carefully scrutinizes the intruders. When in flight, he runs across the water. To this end, he is known as the Jesus Christ lizard in Costa Rica. The leaves of fan palms reach almost to the surface of the water. In the distance, as the river narrows, one can hear monkeys, but not yet see them. Leaping from one branch to another, white-fronted capuchin monkeys live well disguised in the treetops. They can reach head-to-trunk lengths of around 30 to 36 centimeters and have a tail of a similar size. The tail is often carried rolled up, hence the name roll monkeys. Capuchin monkeys live in groups of around 8 to 30 animals, and in the wild, they can live up to 25 years. A group consists of several adult males and females with their joint offspring. After weaning, the females usually stay in their natal groups. The males leave the group after reaching sexual maturity and seek contact with another group. Within the group, both sexes establish a pecking order, which, apart from other things, is commonly brought to bear for access to food and in reproduction. During the day, Wild capuchin monkeys spend most of their time traveling, but almost as much searching for food, followed by social interaction. Resting periods primarily take place during midday and account for about a fifth of their daily activity. This can change slightly during the course of the year. The rest periods are longer in the dry season than they are in the rainy season. Capuchin monkeys are territorial animals. The core area of a district is marked with urine and defended against intruders. The territory of a capuchin group can be as large as 80 to 300 hectares. Within this area, the animals can travel between 1 and 3.5 kilometers. Capuchins sport a striking cap, which is almost black in color. The rest of their facial fur is white. The longer forehead hair and the crown can become crimped in older animals. The color and the arrangement of hair on their heads give the impression of a capuchin monk's cap. Capuchins are tree inhabitants. Their diet consists of fruit, grain, insects, plants, and even young or small vertebrates. After 150 to 180 days of gestation, the females give birth. At first, the baby clings to the belly of the mother and later to her back. After a few months, the babies are weaned. Sexual maturity is reached once they are 4 or 5 years old. In the wild, due to their adaptability and their vast habitat, capuchin monkeys are not a threatened species. On occasion they are hunted, either for their meat or because they plunder plantations, where they are considered pests. The water now becomes more shallow, and apparently, here is a colony of crocodiles. Cautiously, we continue on to the next river bend. Crocodiles doze on the shores. They belong to the family of so-called real crocodiles, but this doesn't mean that all of the others are fakes. Real crocs differ from alligators, like those in the swamps of Florida, due to the shape of their snouts. Alligators have rounded snouts, while those of the crocodile are long. In addition, the fourth mandibular tooth juts out between the upper and lower jaw and can be seen even when the animal has its mouth closed. Crocodiles can be as much as 7 meters long, and weights of up to 450 kilograms are not uncommon. These prehistoric lizards can be found in all corners of the tropical world and prefer to hang out in fresh water, close to the shore, but brackish water also do nicely. According to their size, they feed primarily on fish, birds, and even mammals. The skillful hunters catch their prey with their sharp teeth, but as their teeth reveal large gaps, they are not suitable for chewing the catch. This is why they simply swallow their food whole. We can identify 2 types of crocodile: the American crocodile and the caiman. It is not altogether simple to tell the two apart, but natives of Costa Rica have a pragmatic solution. This is how they explain the difference. If it runs off, it's a caiman. If it eats you, it's a crocodile. American crocodiles are the kings of the crocs. In water, they are perfect eating machines and fear no enemy. But on land, they are highly dangerous. They may look lazy, snoozing in shallow water, but utmost caution should be exercised, as they can strike at speeds of up to 20 miles per hour without the slightest hint of a warning. Young crocodiles are usually grey to yellowy brown, with darker stripes on their bodies. These colorations fade with the years, and adult animals are usually olive green to grey-brown. They have an elevation immediately in front of their eyes and asymmetrically shaped back armor. Strange as it may seem, we are not on their menu. Only young animals attack humans, not because they're hungry, but because they are curious. This can still lead to painful injuries, none the more for that. A little further, off the beaten track as it were, in a secondary arm of the Mangrove River, is the home of this boat-billed heron, a very impressive bird with its large crown and crest, and of course, its scoop-like or rather boat-shaped beak or bill, hence its name. Fortunately, it wasn't named after its high-pitched call. P. Its 8 by 5 centimeter beak is used as a ladle. The bird pushes its beak through the shallow waters of the mangroves, thereby filtering crabs and small animals out of the water. His large eyes serve him well, as he is also a nocturnal hunter, feeding not only on fish, but also on water snakes, mice, crustaceans, insects, and small amphibians. Being semi-colonial, the boatbill prefers his own company, apart from during the mating season, which, by the way, also features its impressive beak when both sexes make a beguiling clapping noise with it. The boa constrictor, which can be up to 4 meters long, lives on another level of the mangrove forest, on branches and twigs. His area of distribution extends from the west or east coast of Mexico, across the whole of Central America, and on to Argentina. The animals live in areas close to water, with high levels of humidity and in dense shrubbery. The boa constrictor is both dusk active and nocturnal. During the day, he hides himself away in caves or other shelters, and only comes out for the occasional sunbathe. Overall, the large constrictor shows little desire to move. A snake equipped with a transmitter in the wild moved a mere 135 meters within a time frame of some 12 days. With the exception of insects and spiders, the boa constrictor eats all of the animals it can handle in terms of size. Even small caimans are on the menu. In general, boa constrictors apply 2 different hunting methods. Either they actively follow the scent of prey, or wait for a favorable moment in which to ambush them. When the snake is close enough to the prey, after applying one of these methods, it snaps instantly and strangles the victim by wrapping itself around it. Doing so, the prey is not crushed, but suffocated. Depending on the size of the prey, this process can last up to 16 minutes. This represents a considerable strain for the snake. In order not to waste energy unnecessarily, the snake feels the heartbeat of the prey and ends the strangling procedure as soon as cardiac arrest occurs. a splash of colour high up in the treetops of the mangrove forest. Macaws. These dazzling parrots can be quite loud, so much so that you can't help hearing them if they are in the area. They live in groups, which can mean as much as 70,000 birds in the case of some species. Parrots are sociable animals. Mutual head-scratching and a feathery kiss and cuddle here and there are common practice. One thing all parrots share is a straight posture and a powerful beak. Science distinguishes between two families of the over 350 kinds of parrot: real parrots and cockatoos. Cockatoos have a bonnet feather, which they can cause to stand up, while a parrot's plumage reflects light in bright colours. Parrots subsist mainly on plant foods, such as fruit, seeds, flowers, leaves, and even tree bark. They are also quite partial to roots containing varying amounts of insects and insect larvae. Very tasty. Apart from Europe, our feathery friends can be found on all continents and have made their homes in tropical rainforests, alpine mountain forests, as well as arid habitats in Australia's outback. This toucan obviously enjoys the company of macaws. He uses his beak to regulate warmth, and it just happens to be the bird's trademark. Here we have a green macaw chilling out in a palm tree. Green and red macaws have always been popular export hits in Costa Rica. The birds were first exported to Europe more than a century ago, where they were initially involuntary guests at royal courts. Due to their linguistic prowess, they soon became perfect companions within the British and French aristocracy. Today, scientists agree that parrots, along with ravens and woodpeckers, belong to the most intelligent birds on the planet. Tests have proven that parrots can memorize combinations, deduce specific processes or procedures, and deploy them at will. The fastest wings in the West, or anywhere else for that matter. Hummingbirds flap their wings faster than any other bird as they rush from blossom to blossom, taking on the role of bees in the mangrove forest. In fact, hummingbirds are probably the fastest vertebrates in the world. They can fly at speeds of almost 100 kilometers per hour. In flight, their hearts beat at up to 500 times per minute. Of course, fuel is necessary to manage performances like this, which comes in the shape of nectar from the blossoms of flowers. Hummingbirds process this directly without having to digest it. These indigenous Mcle live on the banks of the Tacoles, and although open to tourism, for the most part, they remain true to their traditions. Life amidst a mangrove forest, devoid of civilization, doctors, and the advantages of modernity, can be quite hazardous, as danger lurks almost everywhere. A snake bite, for example, can be lethal, as the Mcle neither have an antiserum nor the necessary accident assistance. Their way of life adheres to the classical interpretation of an indigenous people. Women take care of meals, agriculture, and the children, while the men roam the forest to hunt. There are constant dangers attached to hunting too. The men have to be extremely cautious so as not to fall victim to animals such as this tree boa, perfectly adapted to the habitat and difficult to make out. According to the Mcle, these creatures are even known to swallow children, although there is no scientific proof of this. They can, however, devour prey many times their size. As we know, in the Mcle society, women also take care of the fields in their habitat, as well as harvesting forest fruits. Close to the village, they search for starfruit and wild citrus fruit. This green tree snake is not exactly overjoyed to see us. Not as aggressive as most and a trifle shy, the snake prefers to pack his bags and leave. Roots and plants are of special importance to the Mcle. Apart from being an essential component of their food, they also form the basis of their natural medicine. These Mcle women are very knowledgeable in the field of medicinal plants, a gift that has been handed down through the generations. Passed on to mother and daughter, the women take care of the well-being of the tribe. The harvested plants are used to produce local anesthetics and for healing the most varying of diseases. But they are also indispensable for the dyeing of garments. Forest fruits provide the Mcle with vitamins. Many of them are rich in vitamin C and so protect the Indians against illnesses, which are as prevalent here as they are elsewhere. The Tacoles River is full of fish and an ideal hunting ground for the Mcle. But deadly danger also lurks here between the stones and in the water. Conflicts between man and animal are rare, but one bite from this coral adder can be fatal within 24 hours. Meanwhile, some of the male members of the Mcle are busy fishing in the shallow water, but not with a rod or a net. The Mcle combine archery with fishing. It looks a lot simpler than it really is, but these men know exactly what they're doing. After all, catching fish is one of the first things Mcle children learn how to do. The men aim with deadly precision. Pull one fish after another out of the water. They never miss. But with a ritual, they thank the river for the food and apologize to the animals that they have killed. Then they make their way back to the village. There, in the Mcle village, the women go about their traditional tasks. They weave bags out of strips of tree bark and prepare the food for the returning men and their catch. The younger men, who were not part of the hunt, chop wood. The women light a fire and begin with the preparation of the meal in the village rancho. On today's menu are grilled bananas and a vitamin-rich broth of fruits, which they had picked earlier on in the forest. The village rancho is more or less the main square in which the inhabitants socialize. Here they eat, dance, and discuss village matters. Forget saucepans and frying pans. Cooking fish in large banana leaves beats them hands down. The freshly caught fish is wrapped in the leaves and cooked over the open fire. Takes on a slight taste of banana while remaining juicy and full of flavor. A delight even for the most spoilt of palates. Unfortunately, even 3D can't bring the taste into your living room. This soup, made of bananas, roots and fruit, takes some getting used to. It tastes like medicine and is just as healthy, and is eaten with every meal. The forest provides the ingenious Mcle with almost everything they need: food, medicine, and building materials for their villages. Everything comes from the surrounding mangrove forest and is used to the full. They make twine for clothing, bags out of tree bark, and use the rest of the wood to build huts and roofs. First of all, the men strip the tree. What looks like a drumming competition is necessary in order to soften the bark. After about an hour, bark has loosened itself from the trunk and is ready for subsequent treatment. The tree is stripped by hand without the use of any tools. The Mcle are so adept, they can strip a tree of its bark with their bare hands. The constant blows make the bark soft, which the men can then even fold. Once this is done, it is handed to the women to be processed further. The fish is ready, and after a day's work, the entire tribe meets in the village rancho, irrespective of age or gender. This results in a solid social fabric. Problems can be discussed and solved immediately, while plans are made for the future. But the future doesn't look too bright. Civilization is increasingly making its mark in Costa Rica, and even the wilderness is no longer taboo. At the moment, the Mcle live in harmony with nature, but it is a question of how much longer this will be the case. In the Guanacaste Nature Preserve, the mangrove forest system still works. The banana trees carry masses of fruit, and the mangrove blossoms provide the animals with a richly laid table. The ecosystem is alive and well, and the cycle of nature undisturbed. This poisonous green tree adder is attempting to escape the food chain cycle. Perfectly camouflaged, he lurks in the dense foliage of the mangroves on the lookout for prey. Within the shortest possible time, his poison can even kill large animals. This is one of the reasons why he and his ilk are one of the most dangerous snakes in the mangrove forest of Costa Rica. Fortunately, he is relatively timid and usually steers clear of humans, so that the chances of being on the wrong end of his lethal bite are rare. The roof of the mangrove forest is also the local solarium in the jungle of Guanacaste. The Guanacaste tree is one of the first representatives of the tropical rainforest's vegetation. Here, on the border between the rainforest and the mangroves, the flora and fauna are particularly dense. The animals live in abundance, and the biodiversity is endless. Noises of all kinds can be heard when walking through the forest, and this noise can often be highly intimidating. Those brave enough to dare the ascent to the treetops are rewarded with a spectacular view of the forest's green canopy. Caution, rather than bravery, should be exercised here. This tree adder is not known for his nonchalance and humor. He is not only up to 3 meters long, but extremely poisonous, very aggressive, and pounces on anything and anyone who comes within his flight distance. He is a nest thief, is fond of eggs and young animals. He finds iguanas as tasty as small mammals. Tree adders soon develop into a threat for bird life as they raid a hunting ground thoroughly before moving on. Guanacaste provides them with perfect living conditions, a warm, humid climate, tall trees, and an entire supermarket of treats, thanks to the biodiversity of the region. This is why the tree adder is one of the more frequent guests in the border area between mangroves and the rainforest. The iguana. Aloof, indifferent. He seems to have all the time in the world, and probably does. He's relatively safe here too, despite belonging to a threatened species. Only the Galapagos Islands have a larger iguana population than the Guanacaste Nature Preserve. These prehistoric dragons feel at home both on the ground and in the trees. They can be as long as 2 meters, whereby their tails are often longer than the rest of their bodies. Iguanas make very popular pets because they are so fascinating to look at. These modern-day dinosaurs have a row of spines on their backs and scales on their bodies, whereby the men are better equipped. They are also provided with scaled combs with which to impress the ladies and frighten off rivals. Being territorial, they defend their patch against intruders, mostly of their own kind, but they do tolerate members of the opposite sex. Their young feed on insects and other invertebrates, but for the adults, especially those of a convincing size, a plant-based diet becomes increasingly important. Fossil finds reveal that iguanas were already around back in the Cretaceous period, some 55 million years ago. That makes them, along with crocodiles, the world's oldest land creatures. Their relatives, the giant lizards, became extinct with the disappearance of dinosaurs. The smaller iguanas, however, were able to adapt to the changing living conditions. Although iguanas have been around for a very long time, the first written description of the animals dates back to 1768, when an Austrian naturalist by the name of Josephus Laurenti mentioned them in his book on reptiles. Today, there are about 4,000 known species of iguana. They tend to remain in one certain area, which is usually limited by a natural border, mountains or rivers, which are obstacles they cannot cross. All kinds of large iguana can be found in Costa Rica, especially the larger green variety. Green iguanas can grow to sizes of some 45 centimeters, measured from body to head. Add their tails, and you can arrive at sizes of up to 2 meters and more. The green iguana is full of beans by day. Well, almost, and lives preferably in trees. Nevertheless, he's a good swimmer. When on the run, he often leaps into the water from overhanging branches and then scuppers off, leaving the threat behind him. But on the whole, it's rare to see an iguana scuppering anywhere, as most of the time the animals appear inert. The older they become, the less active they tend to be. In the wild, they live until they are around 10, but in captivity and with the right care, they can be 15, 16, 17 years and older. Apart from being kept as pets, in some countries, they are also a culinary highlight to be found on menus as green chicken. But this chicken, the iguana, is in danger for a very different reason. Due to the increasing destruction of the rainforests, this majestic and fascinating animal is one of many threatened species. We now leave the primeval mangrove forest and the first foothills of the rainforest. Up here on high, we experience a breathtaking view across a landscape which has impressed us with its diversity. We now know why the primeval forest regions along the equator are called the green lung of the earth. One can literally feel how the forests breathe. We're back on the Pacific coast, opposite the Guanacaste World Natural Heritage Site. Past few days have shown that it is definitely worth fighting for the preservation of nature and for havens dedicated to the last wild animals on Earth. UNESCO does what it can with the World Natural Heritage Seal. Perhaps a way of reconciling ecology and economy. All that remains is for us to hope that with our help, UNESCO can save the last wonders of our planet from destruction. For us, for our children, and for our children's children.